Hello and welcome to another episode of MXDTV. This is episode 7. And if you were with me last week, episode 6 was a deluxe episode. That was how I introduced it. And it was a very special episode, and we went longer than an hour. And a lot of you tuned in. Maybe the most people yet had tuned in to the broadcast, and it was a great time. So thank you. But we have another special evening, another first for MXDTV. This is not a deluxe episode, it's a bonus episode is what we're going to call it. And as promised, I've been saying I want to start having guests on the show, and tonight is my very first guest, I'm pleased to announce, for a couple reasons. One, I'm a great admirer of his music. He's just hands down one of the best musicians I've ever known. And on top of that, he's my really good friend. So I think it's a great honor to have with us tonight on MXD TV, Mr. Todd Nelson. And here he is. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Mark.
Thanks for joining us on MXD TV.
You're taller than I am.
Yeah. That I'm maybe physically bigger, but you're the bigger person spiritually. So you have a new record out. It's called Nevertheless, and you are having a album release show this Friday, February 18th, at the Hollow Kitchen and Bar in Albany, correct?
Correct. That's on Pearl Street, North Pearl, 79, I think. We can maybe figure out what the true address is.
If you can't find out where it is in this day and age, we don't want you at the show. Is it fair to say that, Todd?
I guess so. There are so many resources available for.
That's right. We don't want you there, so just forget it. And so, is it true, Todd, that you are a legend in Albany? Is that a true statement? Greg Bell has promoted you as legendary.
If legend means somebody who's been around a long time, yes.
And so, also, I'm curious as to, do you have an opening act for the show?
I gotta think. Oh, yes.
Anybody of note that we should know about?
Yes, his name is Marc Delgado.
Oh,
and yes,
I forgot. I need to check my. I'm so excited that I'm getting to open the show for you.
Now that you've been reminded.
Do you have a set list for the show? Are you going to play the album in its entirety, front to back?
We're playing it in its entirety, but not in the same order. And we are also playing a couple of cover tunes.
Like what?
Yeah.
You want to give it away, or do you want to save it and make people come to the show to find out? Give me one. Don't give me both.
Well, there's one cover tune that's on the album called Albatross. It's an old Fleetwood Mac instrumental from 1968. When a lot of people I find don't know that Fleetwood Mac was a band in England, like a blues-based band in England before they moved to America.
Peter Green? Is it Peter Green?
Peter Green was the founder of the band, and so this was an instrumental that was a hit record in England. It was number 1. It's a beautiful song. So
I love your version of it too. It's so good, dude. We were listening to it today.
Thanks. You know what's really interesting about that recording is that it was just a rehearsal with one microphone. It's not even in stereo. And it just came out. The balance and everything came out perfectly. And even Danny said, "I thought this was a mix."
Yeah,
there was no mixing done.
Wow. Oh, really? Wow. You want to play some of that? How do you feel about that?
Sure, I'll play the main theme.
All right. Please enjoy Albatross from the one and only Todd Nelson. beautiful, dude.
Something like that.
So good. Why'd you choose that song?
I guess there is maybe an underlying reason, because it's an instrumental hit.
Right.
And it's one of my not so secret desires to someday have an instrumental hit.
Yeah.
And where did they go? They went away.
Right.
And I think it's a shame.
Why did you choose to start the record with Dune Buggy? I'm curious about that, and I have a theory.
Okay.
If it's probably way wrong, but the interesting, if I can ask you a question and then talk over you for the next 5 minutes,
answer your own question.
I'd like to do that. But I think the interesting thing I've come across while I'm listening to your record is that you've got a great sense of humor. You know what I mean? You're somebody who has a great sense of humor, but is also like deadly serious about music, you know, and about lots of things, literature and all kinds of things. I don't consider you somebody who suffers fools much, you know. But you're also very silly. You and I are easily, like, when we get together.
No, we're holding back now.
We're pretty silly together. But I think on your record, the whole thing, there's a playfulness there that's abundant on the record, and I think even starting with that particular tune might be putting that foot forward. Like, yeah, I'm deadly serious. I'm a complex and you know, well-versed musician, but I also like to have a lot of fun. You know. Yeah,
we wanted it to be fun for ourselves. We had a lot of fun doing it,
right.
But there's, you know, some music is a lot of fun for the musicians and then isn't all that much fun for the listeners. And we really wanted it to be fun for the listener as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I'll extend your question to the song and the title. So I think that part of that is making sure the titles of the songs convey something about the music, you know, if possible.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you, that song had a different name when I wrote it. Called it Sierra Maestra. I was looking for some geographical Latin American name.
Yeah.
And then I found out, this is before I, you know, like published the song, that Sierra Maestra is a salsa band in Cuba that's been around since 1975.
Oh, I see.
And not that there's any copyright problems with naming it that. You know, they could both coexist and it's not a problem, but I decided that probably wasn't a good idea. And then Manuel and I were just shooting the shit in the studio when we were working on the song and of what it reminded us of, and somehow Dune Buggy came up, and that became the name.
That's a great story. You want to play a little of that for us?
Oh, sure. You know, I can't really do it justice. I'll play the rhythm guitar part, which is fun to play.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit of that.
So intro is like,
I'm going to move out of the screen here. So
okay.
This is the first track off of your new record, Nevertheless, and the track is called Dune Buggy, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
That does move along like a little dune buggy, don't it?
Yeah.
For instrumental music, and well, let's just talk about your music. I mean, we can't really talk about anyone else, but what's your process like? Do you get a riff? Do you have an idea of a, since you play so many styles of music on this record, do you think, oh, I want to do something with a Latin vibe, and you start playing like that? Or do you just sit with the guitar and something comes and then you run with that? Or is it all of the above?
It's all of the above.
Yeah. You take what you can get.
Yeah. You take what you can get. I don't censor myself. If I come up with an idea, I don't think about, oh, this isn't appropriate for some reason,
right,
and then just trash it. Right. I record little bits and pieces, put them through my looper. I might play some stuff through a looper and then make a recording of the loop, store it. I have a folder called Song Ideas, and sometimes I go back to that and I'll put them together. The song Prime Time Is Over was the case. The second B section of that was sitting on my computer for a while before. That was the first song I wrote when I bought this new software and the interface, and so that kind of worked out that way. But like a song like Nevertheless, I don't know. I remember it was winter and I was playing that guitar. I was just playing down in the living room. It was just a really dark day and I was feeling very somber. And so I came up with the chord changes, for that. And so I like these chord changes. I don't know what the melody could be, but
you get the chords down and then go back and create a melody over that, or do you hear it? Do you hear it simultaneously while you're playing the chords? Does that ever? I mean, sure, it's happened.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'll sing a melody, but I don't. Everything, I don't. This music, it's not all singable, which is a little freer than having to write, for a vocal all the time. It's a little bit more limited, perhaps, for most vocalists. So you have to sort of think in terms of what would be singable melody. No, I write the chord. The process has changed, but I often write chords, and I think I like these chords. I'm going to stick with them. I don't know what the melody is yet, and then I'll go back to it, and I'll just hammer out a melody. I'll just work on it until I've got something.
Yeah, I love your voicings that you play, and I would love to hear some of that. Nevertheless, you want to play us a little of that?
Sure. I think it'll
and maybe talk about those chords a little.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'll let you play it. I'll get out of the way here. This is the title track of the record.
Right.
And this is the one we were just talking about. Okay. I'll get out of the way.
that's the song.
That's great. You got a great guitar tone. I mean, you're playing everything tonight with your classical guitar.
This is like a flamenco guitar.
Guitar.
Well, basically classical.
But that's not the. I mean, you're doing this for convenience sake. But there's all these great guitar tones on the record. Talk a little bit about that guitar tone you achieved on that song. Do you remember what you were playing? Like for the guitar nerds out there.
I did.
Or just for the nerds in general. They don't know.
I think I played the Gibson Les Paul for a lot of the record, but not necessarily. I think for the main part of that song, that's what I played. But there's also my steel string acoustic guitar on that song, which is interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Because I tuned it to the African high strung style.
What's that?
You take you take off these three strings and you replace them with much lighter strings.
Oh, I think you've shown me that guitar.
And then I've since restrung it to normal, but you replace them with notes an octave higher. So you have basically all the strings on the guitar are kind of in the very close range.
Yeah.
You know? So it's a very shimmery kind of. They call it, some people, the Nashville.
I was going to say, is it also the Nashville tuning, or is it similar?
Well, what I read, there was one difference in that Nashville tuning, you replaced 4 lowest strings.
Oh.
And who knows this is right, but when I read it, I said, that African style, that's the one I want. So
Cool.
I did that. Excuse me. And then, I think people use it differently in Nashville. They call it angel hair, and it just adds a shimmery sort of little thing. I used it a little more arpeggio stuff, that kind of thing.
That's a great track. So that all your music is on all the streaming sites, right? They can hear your music anywhere.
They should be able to, especially by now.
Meaning you, whoever's listening, or anybody who's interested, you can listen to Todd's new record. Nevertheless,
we actually haven't mentioned the name of the band, so we probably should.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about that.
The band is, for short, is called NEQ, and the NEQ stands for our last names, Nelson, Esposito, Quintana.
Right.
Which doesn't roll off the tongue that easily. That's just why we say NEQ.
Yeah, right. And it was it was a different name before that, but it was the same lineup, wasn't it? Did you change it?
Yeah, we called it TN3. It was because when we started it,
Todd Nelson 3.
10 years ago, it was very much my project, and they kind of hired these guys, and but I wanted their talent. I wanted more of them, of their talent.
I think a lot of people want those guys. They play with so many people. You're lucky to have them. Yeah, I mean they play with all the top notch people.
Yeah, I got to compete with everybody else.
Yeah, well, you're in that category. How long have you played with those guys now?
We started in late 2010. I think it's actually early 2011. We played our first gig.
2011.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Where did the time go?
I don't know. So what would you say is the main reason for your guys' longevity together? You've never loaned them money, probably. Is that the best advice you could give bandmates? Like, don't loan each other money, or
that may not be the best advice, but I think it's probably good advice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that none of us sort of stopped doing other things.
Right.
I don't know. When I first started playing in bands, you played in one band, and
right.
It was like your gang.
Right. Well, you had a really good gang too. Let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of people don't know. I mean, the people in the Albany area certainly know about your history with your band. But let's talk about them a little bit. Fear of Strangers. That was your main band for a long time, right?
Yeah. About 5 years between 1978 and 1983. Yeah.
And you guys opened for everybody under the sun back then, right?
Yeah, we started out, our name was The Units, which our drummer, Al Cash, kind of brought over from Australia.
Right.
He had a band called The Units in Australia. When we were looking around for names, we settled on that. And so I guess we changed our name. I guess it was 1982 or 81 when the album came out.
Whose idea was Fear Strangers? I love that. I love that name.
It was either Val, the singer, or Steve, the bass player, and I can't remember now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, maybe the story was they wanted to call it Xenophobia.
Right.
He said, "What does that mean? Fear of strangers."
Right.
Oh, yeah, there's the name.
Yeah, that's it. Say that. Yeah. And how many? You guys were signed to a label, correct?
You could call it that.
Okay. You weren't signed. I thought you were.
No, we were signed.
This is a good story.
Faulty Products, which was one of Miles Copeland's labels. The other one was IRS. Faulty Products. There wasn't a lot of backing for us. There wasn't a lot of work done on our behalf.
Now, Miles Copeland is brother to the famous, or the more well-known, probably.
Stewart, yeah. Stewart was the drummer in the Police.
And you played with those guys, yeah?
We opened for them, yeah, at a bar here in Albany.
Is it true that you hated all three of them, the Police?
No, not all three of them.
Just the obvious choice.
No, actually, I have an interesting story.
I'd love to hear it.
Sting story.
I'd love to hear it. Let me just interject really quick. I'm joking about all of that because I love the Police, and
So did I.
I love Sting so much. I mean, I just admire him and his work.
I had all the Police records.
Me too, and I love his solo work too. Mm-hmm. So let me just clarify that I'm kidding completely.
But so they. So we were hanging out backstage, and they traveled for a touring band. They traveled really light, and that's part of they sort of revolutionized touring in that sense because
what do you mean?
Bands would be extravagant, and they'd spend a lot of money on the road.
Well, they were very punk rock in nature, weren't they? In philosophy, they're
yeah. I don't. It's come out since then that they weren't always punks, but it was kind of like. They had to sort of be that in order to get attention in England. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, they had their tour manager who was also the sound man. That's Kim Turner, and Kim Turner who produced a demo of For Fear of Strangers at one point. But anyway, so there was Kim, and then they had this other guy whose name was Dave. And he seemed like a real working class kind of English guy because they called him Oiv, like dive. They would say, and I heard them say, I didn't hear the name. I thought it was like Oif.
Right.
And I was like, it's kind of like taking it back. I said, So I said to Sting, what does he do when you call him that? Sting goes, responds.
That's good. And that was it.
And that was it. And then later,
when did you finally figure out?
Oh, well, sometime later. I don't know.
His name is Dave. Oh.
No explanation.
There was none.
None.
Can I ask a really personal question?
Yeah.
What type of powder? No, never mind. I was going to ask. What happened with that band? Why did it end? Oh. Can I ask something like that?
Yeah. It kind of went the way of a lot of bands that you just get burnt out after a while doing the same thing and it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. It's kind of what that. You are one of, I said this at the top and I'm going to say it again. I hope I don't embarrass you, but you are just one of the, you really are one of the best
musicians I've ever known, and you've done so much, and you're such a professional. You know, you have a real way about you that is I've met a lot of people in the music business who seem bitter or grumpy about it. And you never come across that way. You are always so generous with your time. You lend your talent to a lot of people, and you don't seem to you never seem bitter or like over it, or you just always seem to really enjoy playing. Is that true? I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I wasn't always like that. I'm pretty sure I passed through a stage of bitterness.
Yeah, sure.
But I have to credit my wife Jo for making me maybe more generous about making music and with people, and and I do genuinely enjoy it. But I don't have to do things that I don't enjoy.
Right. You can do whatever you want.
I pick and choose.
Right.
More judiciously. Can we edit that out?
Let's talk
choose more better now.
Yeah, more better. Let's talk about your wife briefly. So you guys we've discussed this, and we'll have Jo on the show, but your wife, Joanne, is a writer, correct? Playwright, poet.
Yep.
Essayist.
Yes.
And so meeting her and being with her, is that, like you said, it's certainly changed your perspective. Has it also inspired you to want to keep making things? Because she's quite prolific too. Do you guys spur each other on in that way? I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, it's not competitively.
Not competitively.
But we are supportive of each other for sure.
Right.
And a lot of that is just kind of getting out of the way and letting the person do their thing.
Do you think it's advantageous to have another artist in the relationship instead of having just one person in the relationship being an artist? Or in other words?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Because you have an understanding,
right,
of what the process is,
right, and so and
what it is.
That it's just a matter of working out the details, because you're both going to want to do this.
Do you think she's smarter than you, Todd?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you have to say that on here anyway.
You do. I do, but I still think it's true.
You read a lot of books. What are you reading right now?
Do you know the Japanese author Haruki?
Yes.
And
Murakami?
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
I'm reading my third of his books now.
Which one are you reading?
I just finished After the Quake, After the Earthquake, which is really kind of connected short stories. And then I read After Dark. And then I read, before that, I read a nonfiction book by him, and it's Conversations with Seiji Ozawa.
Oh, wow.
The conductor.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
He's a wild writer, isn't he? I mean, his books are wild, man. Yeah. Do you are you lost reading them sometimes? I get a little lost. I'm not that smart, but.
Well, I don't really know what's there under the surface, what's trying to be said, but whatever is on the surface is really neat just to read.
I know it is. It's so different, right? I mean, it's just so strange, and that's enough sometimes. Isn't
but it's strange, but it's not strange and like hard to read or hard to follow. Or,
right.
Yeah, at least the translations I've read.
Yeah, you're so well read. You seem to really love literature. Does it influence the music? Does it like come into like, I mean, I guess I'm sure it does. I mean, it's kind of a silly question, but like, do you read something and think like for instance, I had a friend I have a friend, he's a musician, and he was making a record once, and he told me, I want this record to make you feel like the movie Seven makes you feel. Remember see that movie Seven? Really scary, kind of David Fincher.
I haven't, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, I want this record to make you feel like that movie makes you feel. I mean, do you ever have these kinds of thoughts?
No.
No.
Especially, but you mentioned movie music, and I'm doing instrumental music, and
Right.
so much of the emotions you feel watching a movie come from the music, but it's almost subliminal. People don't really
Right.
realize that's what's
It's true.
driving them emotionally.
Do you ever watch movies when they've taken the soundtrack out, like the treatment, and you just see the scenes? It's quite quite different. Yeah, like you're saying, you don't really realize how much the music is moving it.
Right. Cues you to feel this way. I mean, it's not quite scientific, but there really are chord changes that are scary.
Right.
You hear them again and again.
You do that a lot too. You'll play a chord and then look at me and make the corresponding. I'll make you the corresponding face, which I think is great. You do that a lot. It's so much fun. So
I think this one scares them.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I'm listening to this record, I think a lot of it, I feel like when I'm hearing it, I feel that way when I'm listening to, like, I think the first time I heard Bill Frisell, who I know we both love, I felt that way too. I was like, I think it was Ghost Town, his record Ghost Town, and I was like,
yeah.
And I remember hearing it and thinking, is this from a movie? Like, I feel like this is. But there's no movie to be had, but it feels like it's a sound. I feel like that, I mean, I guess that's an automatic response to instrumental music, because we think we don't know what to do with it or something.
Hopefully there's a response, there's some kind of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Love your version of, I might get the title wrong, but it's something like In My Father's House, or what's that tune?
Let Us Go Into the House of the Lord?
Yeah, there you go.
That one? Let me see if I can read.
I love that so much. Will you play a little bit of that for us?
Yeah, I think I can, yeah.
So this is on which record?
My first record under my own name, called Here.
Right. And can we hear that on streaming services? Is it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Still out there.
So this is a song. What is this, like a gospel tune, or?
It's actually, it's an anonymous gospel song,
written by God. I would surmise.
He's suing for the royalties. It's all bogged down in court, though.
All right, I'm going to let you play it. I'm going to get out of the way. What's the title again?
The full title is "Let Us Go Into the House of the Lord." I shortened it to "Into the House," and
oh, that's right. There you go.
Because this is just a graphic thing. I had these 1 or 2 word titles, and went blink, blank, blunk, blunk. Let us go into the house of the Lord.
Right, and it didn't look right. Yeah,
yeah, it was kind of weird. So this was done by before. It's if you don't mind me talking about the song, where it comes from. There was a gospel album that came out in 1970 by the Edwin Hawkins Singers, and it had "Oh Happy Day" on it. That was so that was like the first breakout gospel song that became like a pop hit. And this song was on that. It was a cut on that record, and then it's been recorded by John McLaughlin and Carlos Santana. They did a album together in the early mid 70s, but the version I love is by Pharoah Sanders. So anyway, let's see if I remember how it goes. Thanks. I got into a little trouble there because it's usually play on an electric.
You found your way out of it
Yeah,
though, and it was
so-
really actually kind of brilliant. I wanted to talk about more songs. There's 13 songs on the record. One of them's a remix at the end of Block Party. The record's about an hour or something?
Just hour and 6 minutes, something like that.
And you've mentioned to me you think it's a great driving record.
Yeah, we even considered calling it music for driving or something like that.
As opposed to music for airports.
Yeah, which is
Right.
a totally different vibe.
Totally different. Well, I tell you, I've been listening to your record a lot, and not only is it good for driving, I would agree, but it's also good for around the house.
Oh, okay.
And Mary Scout came in today while I was listening to it, my daughter, and she commented on it. Oh, that's pretty good music, Papa, she told
But
me.
you're reaching people when you reach a 5-year-old.
Yeah, because she'll tell me, it's almost like, Neil Young has the, if the dog gets up and leaves the room, you've gone wrong somewhere. So with Mary Scout, it's kind of like that. If she,
My dog always gets up and leaves the room. So I can't go by that.
so you got the Mary Scout stamp of approval today.
Oh, great. That's nice.
No, I think it's also good because I love to have music on when I'm around the house, being a dad, cooking, and I like mood oriented stuff. So your record achieved that for me too. So it's not
let's
only
talk
for
about that.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's sort of a trend now, in because people can get playlists and stuff, so people
Right.
are curating playlists,
Sure.
to make you feel a
Right.
certain way.
Right.
And I'm not really crazy about that.
No.
Because
Why not?
Because first of all, no one should tell you how to think or how to feel. You should just feel. And what's wrong with feeling one way for a certain song, and another song comes on and it makes you feel totally
Right.
different?
Sure.
And so you're not. I don't know. It just seems artificial, and I don't think it's I don't know. It's squeezing something out of the music listening experience.
Right. And so like everything is not just one vibe, but
Yeah.
you certainly achieve that on the record. You have a lot of different looks.
Yeah.
Latin,
Yep.
Prague, there's some Prague.
There's some prog. There's the gospel song.
Gospel.
There's just
Funk.
crazy, funky, crazy stuff. Sort of.
Yeah.
There's some electronic-y sort of things.
There's some nice sound effects, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just how I feel about music. Is that it should be something you're engaged with. It's not something. Sometimes I think people want to just put on music and to not listen to. I mean, deliberately do not want to listen
Right.
to something.
I agree. I think you might be right about that. Yeah.
So I think that's what that trend that I don't like about that trend is, because it seems to be pushing that narrative that,
So you've created your own playlist, so to speak. Of a
right.
smorgasbord of
This is the music that I would put together
right.
as a playlist.
I think that's a good. When you're making music, I mean, I always sit back and think, would I listen to this? As I'm making it or something, and I think the biggest metric, or maybe the only one really, is like, would I listen to this record?
Right. Instead of just sort of checking it out and, listening
I want it to sound like this, and I want it to be this, or I'm trying to do, it's like, would I listen to this record? This is the record I want to make because I want to hear it.
Does it hold people's attention? I don't know. I think music has become so easy to make that some people are forgetting certain elements of music, that are pretty important, like melody.
We
I actually
talked about
heard
that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I search around for music. I try to find other bands like us, because you have to kind of try to fit into something.
Sure.
Or maybe you don't have to, but I have tried.
Sure.
And I hear a lot of stuff, that, I mean, there's a lot of trends towards some of the sound effects, like oh, I sounds like I'm on the beach, or that kind of thing. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that, but that's
Right.
that sort of chill thing, which I don't find very interesting. But I hear
Right.
some music where you just forgot to add the melody. You wrote a backing track
Right.
and you put that out. Like, there's
Right.
nothing in the forefront to occupy the listener's attention.
Right.
And that, and rap music and, it's rhythm is sort of taken that role.
Sure.
And in a lot of music, the lyrics take on that role.
Mm-hmm.
But at least that's something,
Right.
there's something there.
Yeah.
But in this music, melody has to take that role almost
Right.
all the time. Not
Right.
textures, the textures in there, they can come to the forefront sometimes, but
Yeah.
mostly it's hierarchical, totally hierarchical. Music is not democratic at all.
Right. I was gonna say that your record takes one on a journey. I'm not gonna say that, but but it does take you on a ride.
Let's just think it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't want to sound cliche, which I can't seem to avoid, but your record certainly takes one on a ride, and it gets to a place towards the end that I find really moving. I'm genuinely moved by the time you get to the track at peace. I just, why? I mean, you called it that for a reason, because that's what it feels like. I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying before. I think it's especially important with instrumental music. I don't know. I feel like it's helped the listener along by doing something in the song, even if it's a private thing. At least it's something.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and also, or something sort of technical like threshold. I just like the word threshold, or
Right.
the way it looks. But that song has a threshold in it, musical threshold, where this is for one section is like this. C minor, very sort of, and then it goes.
Right.
So that's a musical. That chord is like the threshold of that between those two totally different moods.
Right.
So, not that someone would know that from looking at the title before they heard the music, or even after they heard the music.
I love the guitar tone on that one too. On Threshold, it's killer, man.
Thanks.
How'd you achieve that one? Do you remember?
Well, I was trying to get that that 6-string bass sound, like the solo in Wichita Lineman.
Ah.
Except it's boom boom,
Right.
That's the 6-string bass. So I was trying to get that sound. I got it electronically, but
Right.
close to it. So it's a little bit spaghetti westerny. It's prairie, kind of a prairie. I don't know. For me, it evokes like space.
Yeah. Do you want to play some of that for us?
Yeah, I can't really play the melody. So it's kind of.
You've talked about, like, I think you enjoy music that's a little difficult to play. Is that so I can't be in your band? Is that why you've chosen to write difficult music?
Years ago, I thought I'm going to meet a guy, Marc Delgado, and he's going to want to be in my band. How can
I know he can't play these chords, so I'm going to No, but you have talked about like you do like a certain degree of challenge. Is that
Well,
is
it's not like I'm choosing to be challenged. Sometimes I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do that as a writer. Sometimes, writing music.
The form
sometimes
dictates
it's almost
the...
I think almost like it's an assignment.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a song with gospel chord changes in it.
Right.
And,
Well, that's
or whatever.
form, right? I mean, that's form dictating the art. Right?
Yeah, I guess so. But it's an impetus just to actually complete the piece. It kind of gives you a
Right.
template, no matter how vague, but at least it's something. And I just want to play what I hear, and I'm able to play it, or almost able to play it. And it just turns out that that's the way it is, So,
are you in fact at peace in your life? Is that where that song comes from? Do you find yourself? I mean, nobody's totally
right. I was going to say not totally, because
no, but would you? If somebody were to ask me, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, today, in general, my life today is better than it's ever been. I think that's why I like that track so much.
I would agree that my life is, better than it's ever been. Especially musically, I'm definitely at peace. I'm totally where I want to be. What I'm doing is exactly what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I have sort of a fair amount of freedom to do it. And so, but, I just was looking around for a title for the song, that again, that I felt said something about, if you read that at peace, and you're just looking at the back of the CD or whatever,
right,
it would say something to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Will you play some of it for our last thing? Can you play some of that? Oh man, that's great.
Now that I think about it, I did want those last two notes to sound like you could say "at peace" at the end.
Oh yeah. Todd, I've kept you long enough. I'm looking forward to the show on Friday. Let's recap, shall we?
Okay.
ToddNelson.com. Is that where we find you online?
ToddNelsonGuitar.com.
That's your website.
Yes.
We find you on all the streaming sites under Nelson
Esposito
Quintana. So just spell Nelson.
Nelson. Yeah. You probably could find it under NEQ, just capital NEQ. But if you don't, I would try Nelson space
Nelson.
Right. Espo to turn up about that time.
And it's on all streaming sites. Your brand new record. It's called Nevertheless. It's instrumental rock. Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah, we're not going to try to be any more specific than that.
Yeah, but it's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. It's
but I think
that guitar record, though.
It's a big enough bin to throw it in,
And you're having your album release show at the Hollow Kitchen and Bar in Albany, Friday, February 18th.
Right.
And you've asked me, your pal, to open the show.
Right.
I think you've told me I could play half a song. Is that?
No, I said half an hour.
Oh, shit! I got it. So we're playing Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun. All the most important, beautiful people in Albany will be there, I imagine.
As many of them as we can round up.
Right. I just want to say that having met you in my life has totally changed my life. You've just been so generous, and you've given me confidence I didn't used to have having met you, and I've learned a lot just being in the same room with you, and your friendship, and I kind of consider you I don't want to use the word mentor, but remember in Shazam when he would, he had that little ball, and then it would like change over to the cartoon, and all the like all the gods were there, and they would talk to him. I kind of put you.
Did I miss this movie? Is this a movie? Shazam?
It was on Saturday mornings.
Okay.
And
well, we are a little different in age, so I have a different cartoon.
It was this old guy and this kid, and they drove around in an RV.
Oh, wow.
But then the kid would become Shazam, and he had this like glowing ball, and it was like regular people, but then he would consult the ball, and then it would become cartoons, and he would go into this like glowing cave, and there'd be all these like elders there, and they'd talk to him, and then he'd become Shazam. So you're kind of like those. I'm the kid in the RV, and you're the elder, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, knowing you has been a pleasure, absolute pleasure, and thanks for coming on the show tonight. And
well, you're welcome, and thank you for that. Those nice words.
I hope people come out to hear you play, and I hope they buy your record and listen to it. I think
me too.
Should. And if they don't,
they're missing out.
They're missing out, and maybe
they really are missing out.
There should be physical consequences. Todd, thanks for coming on the show, man. Right. We'll see you Friday night.
All right. See you then.
Good night.
Bye.
That's Todd Nelson, the one and only Todd Nelson, my really good friend, bandmate, and amazing composer and guitarist and all-around great human being. Thanks, Todd, for being on the show, the first guest on MXDTV. This has been not a live stream. We recorded this conversation, and there will be probably, you'll notice some edits, but that was the way we wanted to do it, because Todd and I are close friends, and we wanted to be able to just talk without worrying that we were messing up. So thank you once again, Todd Nelson. Friday night at the Hollow, he's doing his album release party. I'm opening the show. My name is Marc Delgado, or MXD. Thanks for tuning in to episode 7 of MXD TV, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.